everyone. So this one is a gentle yoga practice with a focus on our hips. So have one or two blocks nearby. You might not need them both, but you're definitely going to need at least one block. And let's go ahead and start lying down on our backs. So for this one, let's start laying on our backs with the soles of our feet together and our knees out wide. And just make sure you're comfortable here, closing the eyes. Maybe placing the palms on the belly. Let's just begin by noticing our breath. Noticing the depth and the rhythm of our breath. Noticing the pace and the quality of our breathing. Noticing the length of your breath. And seeing if you can either match the inhale to the exhale, or maybe allowing that exhale to be just a little bit longer than the inhale. Noticing the sensation of the breath as it enters and leaves the nose. Noticing the breath as it moves up and down the throat. Maybe adding the quality of sound here as we begin to engage our ujjayi breathing, that really light constriction in the back of the throat. Noticing the gentle movement in the shoulders and the collarbones. Observing the ribs as they move three-dimensionally with each breath. Noticing the belly rising and falling. Let's just take a few more breaths here, letting that rhythm and pace of the breath start to settle in. Next inhale, now stretching the arms overhead and bringing the knees together. And as we exhale, bring the knees in towards the chest and round the head up towards the knees. Good, and then just set the feet back down onto the floor. And we're going to start with some bridge lifts here, and I'm going to use one of my yoga blocks just to give me some stability. So I'm going to take the block and place it the narrow way between the knees, and then we're going to give it a squeeze. The heels can be underneath the knees here, and maybe wrap the shoulder blades underneath you. The palms can be flat down on the floor. Begin to just very gently squeeze the block between the knees. And then as we inhale here, slowly roll up, one vertebra at a time if possible, lifting the hips. And as you exhale, softly rolling back down. Inhale, lifting the hips. Exhale, gently relaxing back down again. And just continue to do that, lightly squeezing the block for stability between the knees or inner thighs. And if you'd like this one to be just a little bit more dynamic, as we inhale the next time, the arms can come up and overhead towards the back of the mat. And as we exhale, the arms can come back alongside you. Inhale, arms rise up and overhead as you lift the hips. And as you exhale, rolling back down, bringing the hands again right back alongside you. Inhale, rising up, lifting the hips, stretching the arms back behind. And as you exhale, softly coming back down. Good, and now just reaching up, grabbing hold of the block and setting it to the side for now. Let's squeeze our right knee in towards our chest. And cross the right ankle over the left thigh. Now I know for some of us, our hips are pretty tight here, so maybe this is as far as we're going to go today. You might start to kind of open and close that right hip by pressing the outer knee forward and then relaxing it back. You could even take your right hand to your inner right knee crease or the inner right thigh and just gently assist that opening and closing. Just checking in. Feeling the head of the leg bone moving around in the hip socket. Good. And then if you feel pretty good here, let's go ahead and lift that left foot up and either interlace the hands behind the left thigh and just relax the left shin and the left foot, or you could even interlace the hands right around that left shin. And just kind of settle in here. Let the low back relax down. And just enjoying this sensation in the outer right hip. And continuing to check in with the breath here. Let's take maybe 4 or 5 more breaths. Slow and steady. Just organically deepening into the pose. Taking one more breath. Softly releasing, uncrossing that right leg. And now let's hug the left knee in towards the chest. Give it a squeeze. And crossing that left ankle over the right thigh if it feels good. And again, just kind of notice how that left hip is feeling. Maybe open and close the knee using the hand. And then again, if it feels pretty good here, feel free to pick up that right foot, interlace the hands behind the right thigh, and just relaxing that right knee towards you. You can also interlace the hands around the right shin if you have a little bit more space. Settling into this one, noticing the breath. And taking just a few more breaths here. Release. And hugging both knees into the chest, now rocking side to side. You can either rock over to one side or the other here, or simply roll on up to a seated position, and we're going to roll right over to our hands and knees. Good, so finding table pose, creases of the wrists under the shoulders, knees stacked right underneath the hips. Let's take a few rounds of cat-cow. So as we exhale, we're tucking the tail, rounding the spine, dropping the head. As we inhale, the belly falls, the gaze lifts, and the shoulders draw down and away from the ears. Good, relax the head down as you round the spine and tuck the tail. Inhale, the belly falls, the gaze lifts, and the shoulders draw down and away from the ears. And now this time as you round the spine, tuck the tailbone, sink the hips back towards the heels and get to the low back here in a nice deep stretch. Inhale, come forward, drop the belly, lift the gaze. As you exhale, round the spine, drop the head, sink the hips back towards the heels. As you inhale, come forward, drop the belly, lift the gaze. Good. And then softly just coming back to this neutral position in the spine. Let's walk the knees maybe a little bit closer in if that makes you feel more steady. And we'll take our right leg back behind us, toes planted down on the floor. Good, press the palms into the mat, squeeze the belly in. And as you inhale, begin to elevate that right leg, no higher than hip height. So we want to be careful here that we're not lifting it up so high that we dump into the low back. So try, if you can, to keep it right at about hip level. Drop the outer right hip down so the toes are pointing down, and breathe. And if you feel pretty steady here, take your left arm out in front of you now for spinal balance. Taking a few breaths. Good, take one more breath here. And as you exhale, drop that left hand down to the floor, and we're going to step our right foot up between our hands. Good, so here's where a couple blocks might come in handy, so if the floor feels kind of far away from you, you're certainly welcome to grab hold of a couple blocks and place them underneath your hands just to kind of lengthen the arms and make the floor easier to reach. So take your left knee now, tuck your left toes, and slide your left knee back in space so that we're more resting kind of on the front of the knee as opposed to directly down on the kneecap. Walk the hands back so that the arms are right underneath the shoulders. And we want to try to get that right knee stacked right over the ankle or maybe slightly beyond the ankle. So in this one, we want to make sure that the knee is not behind the ankle. It's going to make us feel a little bit more unsteady. Instead, again, knee over the ankle or even slightly beyond. And you can stay right here. This might be a really nice stretch in the front of that left thigh for a lot of us. But if you want a little bit more, begin to press that right foot into the floor. And as we inhale, rise all the way up, bringing the arms up and overhead with you. And for this one, just kind of feel around once we get up here. Maybe back out of the pose a little bit, and then come back into it to feel that nice deep stretch in the front of the left thigh. Gaze can follow the hands, gaze can also be forward. Breathe. See if you can really lengthen from the tailbone up through the fingertips, and then grab hold of that left wrist with the right hand. And we're going to lean to the right. Getting a nice deep stretch in the top of the left hip, right through that left side body. Keep breathing. Good. Inhale, come back up, gaze up. Exhale, drop the hands down to the floor or the blocks. Stay right where you are here. Press down through that left foot. And now this one is going to be a little bit deeper. So again, if you need to skip this one, that's fine. But we're going to press into the top of the left foot and lift the left knee up off the floor. So this one's going to allow us to access the psoas muscle just a little bit more. Press the right foot down and pull the energy of the right heel back towards the left toes. And then sink that left hip down. We should feel a nice deep stretch here at the very top of that left thigh, maybe even a little bit deeper. Let's take one more breath. Good. And then softly drop that left knee. Slide the right leg back. And let's take a child's pose. Big toes touch, knees apart. Move the blocks out of the way. And just come back into the hips, noticing how we're feeling here. Noticing the change from one side to the other. Coming back to the breath. Taking just one more breath here. And as we inhale, let's rise back to hands and knees. So again, a few rounds of cat-cow just to loosen everything up. As we exhale, we're rounding the spine, dropping the head. As we inhale, the belly falls, the gaze lifts, the shoulders draw down and away from the ears. Good, rounding the spine, dropping the head. And coming back through center, dropping the belly, lifting the gaze. Good, this time again, if you want to, as you round the spine, drop the head, you could sink the hips back towards the heels. Inhale, come on forward, drop the belly, lift the gaze. Exhale, round the spine, tuck the tail, sink the hips back towards the heels. Inhale, come on forward, drop the belly, lift the gaze. Good. And now let's come back to that neutral position again, taking the left leg back behind us. Toes can start down on the floor. And then, again, we're gonna elevate that left leg only about hip height. Keep breathing. Press the floor away from you. Good. If you're feeling okay there, slide that right arm out in front of you, thumb facing ceiling. Good, focus on the breath here. Try to stay steady. Take one more breath. And as you exhale, drop the right hand down to the floor, and we'll step that left foot up between the hands. So again, if you'd like to, you can come on to your yoga blocks. You can walk that right knee back in space. Relax the shoulders down and away from the ears. Good. Now, again, if this feels pretty good here, we want to feel a stretch in the front of that right thigh. Feel free to stay right where you're at, or begin to press firmly into that left foot. Try not to come out of the knee, so keeping that knee forward. As we inhale, swim the arms straight up and overhead. Pushing down and forward into that right hip, breathe. And then grabbing hold of that right wrist with the left hand, lean to the left. Good, inhale, come back up. Maybe gaze up if you feel balanced. Exhale, drop the hands down to the blocks. And now again, we can either stay here or get a little bit deeper into the psoas muscle on that right side. So pressing the top of your right foot down, we're gonna lift our right knee up off the floor just a few inches. And then see if you can come down and forward into that hip as you take your gaze forward. Just really feeling that nice stretch in the front of the right thigh. Breathe. Taking one more breath. Good, dropping that right knee down, shifting the hips back, and once again, finding our way to a child's pose. You can slide those blocks off to the side if you'd like, sink the hips back towards the heels, and relax here in a nice child's pose.